Good morning. Welcome to Viking Preparedness. Woo! I'm Pastor Joe Fox. There we go. How long do we have? A bunch of Americans were surveyed, and a bunch of Americans think that civil war is inevitable. When you break it down to, is it likely or unlikely, and then all the gradations. A bunch of people think it's likely. Possible. Could happen. I want to look at that. How long do we have? What's it going to look like? I can come to the bottom line of this video, or perhaps the caveat. I don't know. Nobody does. And so what follows is me just thinking about it, talking about it. I used to say, I still say, when people say, Pastor Joe, how long do we have? Meaning, how long do we have until chaos reigns? And I always say, at any given time, we are 72 hours away from chaos. Meaning that things could happen. Many different kinds of things could happen with a rapidity that would see the world in chaos within 72 hours from go. Which is why you need to be prepared to deal with anything. Basic intermediate preparedness covers a myriad of situations. But we are talking today about civil war. If you have not yet, you should read about fourth generation warfare. You know, academics, and to a degree I am and was an academic, they love to pontificate, they love to nitpick. You know, Pastor Joe Fox said this, and he's mostly right, but he missed this one crucial point, blah, blah, blah. But people have written about fourth generation warfare, and basically, in a nutshell, it's going back to the old ways. In not even modern history, in history for a long time back, the state, meaning the nations in modern parlance, the countries, have had a monopoly on violence. But, you know, you've started hearing about non-state actors, Al-Qaeda, you know, stuff like that. So, bottom of my foot itches. I either got bit by a chigger or, I don't know, it itches so. And fourth generation warfare has to do a lot with that. It's not necessarily countries going to war with each other. There aren't uniformed armies. There aren't lines drawn in the dirt. This is mine, that's yours. And it's very confusing, and it goes back to tribal warfare. It's coming. So, how long do we have? I find it interesting that the violence, the looting, the burning, the confrontations between sides. There's been more burning and looting than there has been confrontations between, you know, Proud Boys and Antifa. Protesters and counter-protesters. Most of the action is taking place in what we in the U.S. call the blue zones. The blue areas, the Democratic control, the Democrat, I always get that wrong. Democratic? Democrat. Democrat-controlled areas. Seattle. They've seized territory and autonomous, and they're not calling it autonomous anymore, PJ. Whatever. It's in Seattle. Okay? It's just a liberal bastion of blech. All this stuff is happening in those areas. You don't see this stuff happening in conservative, you know, strongholds, small town America. And, you know, like I said before, all the people going, they're coming to the small towns. No, they're not. They'll get shot 5 blocks down by Cletus with his .270 deer rifle. I mean, it's just not happening that way. So one, it's been happening there. But they're getting bolder, right? I mean, no one's stopping them. I heard the city of Seattle is actually helping them put the wall up around Chaz or CHOP or whatever the heck they call it. They're redefining themselves. They probably have lawyers saying, you better not declare yourself autonomous. That opens up a whole toolbox to the feds. But they're getting bolder. And shots have already been fired. Did you see? I thought it was pretty good photographs somewhere. Texas? I should know this, but go to Bear. He'd do his daily brief. He'll tell you. They were taking out a picture of a statue of some conquistador, and protesters, rabble, and an armed militia, for lack of a better term, was there saying, no, you're not going to take that down. Something ensued. Anyway, some dude started shooting on the right side. Fired 4 or 5 shots. Critically wounded one of the leftists. That could go down as some of the first shots fired. I was thinking about that this morning, not very deeply. But there's been some car rammings and things like that. But really, I think that's people who turned the wrong corner, got caught up in a crowd, and are like, oh, heck, I'm not stopping. This shooting, that's something a little bit different. Could go down in history as the first shots fired. Shot heard around the world. Who knows? But heretofore, the right has not fought back. Not really. I think that could change quickly if these protesters get so emboldened by whatever mean name you want to call them, Antifa, BLM, something else that comes out of that, whatever. Once they make a move into the suburbs, once they make a move into the area where it's not liberal bastion, one, they're going to come up against fierce resistance, the likes of which they did not expect. And two, it might not stop there. It might be like taking a needle and coming up underneath a balloon full of water. And you can push so far and then pop. And it's not just a pushback, it's a deluge. That could happen. Depends what's going on. There's a lot of... will you just allow me to use the terms right wing, left wing, please? And when I say so, I'm talking pretty much extreme on both sides. There's a lot of pent up anger, resentment, brooding on the right. The left has had their little hiccup, their little burp, their little fart. And maybe, I said on the one hand they're being emboldened, maybe on the other hand they kind of got it out of their system. The right is still brooding. And let's be real, who has the guns? And knows how to use them? Knows how to hold them? Who has them? That's right. The left is way late to that party. And so it could get ugly. How fast could that happen? Things are going to continue to build until November. If Trump loses in November, a possibility. If Trump loses in November and Democrats sweep into power, the thing about now I know this is Americans, I don't know how it works in Europe between your left and your right. But the thing about Democrats is when they have power, they use it. The Republicans, when they have power, they don't. It has to do with liberal and conservative thought and stuff like that. But my point is, if they win the election, they're going to take massive steps, probably right away, because they're emboldened coming off of all these protests and stuff too. And that's going to tick the right off. Right? And so if the Democrats win and take drastic action on measures of things that really irritate conservatives, you could see serious pushback. If Trump wins, the left is just going to go cray-cray and keep doing things. But that doesn't necessarily mean anything's going to kick off, because they could just burn their own section of the cities down again. They're not real bright that way. That's because of the people they choose to go out there and do their work for them. Minimum, before this kicks off, on a pretty large nationwide regional scale, I'd say at least a month. Because you got to build and build and build and build and build, and it's not doing that right now at that level. Something could happen today that could start that ball rolling, and I think a month, 6 weeks later, you could see a different world here. So, when? I think you've got at least a month before it goes crazy. Where? If I was good, I would script in that line from The Patriot. This war will be fought amongst our homes, and blah, blah, blah. It's in my beard. Lunch. Where? You know where. It's going to be in the built-up areas and in the interface of the cities to the suburbs, in that kind of where they meet. That's where it's going to be. So where, probably more specifically, the suburb city lines, where those two things meet. Cities are lost for the most part. They're already lost. They've been lost. They're just making it plain now. It'll be at the interface of the city and the suburb. That's where it'll be. Won't be out here, people. It's not going to be in the rural areas. People in rural areas, they're not as tough as they think they are, but they're a lot tougher than people from the city. A country mindset is a real thing. A city mindset is a real thing. Country stubbornness is a real thing. And people in the country don't think of this as their primary weapon. Yeah, man, let me tell you something, man. And they don't even think of, in many cases, AR pistols, man. They have 30 caliber rifles that they kill deer and elk with. And they know how to shoot them. It's a world of difference. So that's where. Build up areas. What's the solution? Come out of her, my people. Will they hit isolated farmsteads? Maybe to a degree, especially as it builds and builds and builds. What's the solution? Have a mag, have a crew. Get with other people. Now. Do it now. Train now. Quit worrying about buying stuff. Go out and train with what you have. It's not about stuff. So many people revert to stuff. I want stuff to solve my problem. I want to throw money at it to solve my problem. You got to throw you at it to solve the problem. I am telling you, you do not want to be where this kicks off. You don't want to be there. If you do, there's probably something wrong with you. You need to get away from it. And you need to get away from it a year ago. So do the best you can with what you got where you're at. Look around. Now's coming up to be a pretty good time. Soon as the Democrats pick their candidate officially, candidates, president, vice president, and the yard signs start going up, that's a good indicator. And where you see about half Trump, half Biden, or whoever, signs in yards, that's a friction zone. That's a bad place to be. And if you see the lone Trump sign in a town surrounded by Biden signs, better move. Isn't that interesting? Picture a small town or suburb or whatever where most of the people are liberals. And then there's the one conservative who puts their yard sign up. And then flip it. There's a town like where I live where most people are conservative and put one, liberal yard sign up. The chances of that house and that sign being vandalized are much greater if it's a conservative sign in a liberal area than a liberal sign in a conservative area. What's that tell you about people? But let me finish my point. The right is brooding. They're simmering. And the heat is being turned up by the left. And I don't think the left, those who are organizing it and leading it and pushing, understand what kind of can of whoop-ass they're about to open up. And I'm not playing. For those of you who, if anybody thinks that's what I was talking about. I personally, the more this stuff goes on, I consider it silly and stupid. And I just want to live out here in the middle of nowhere and grow my beans. But I watch it with some sadness and amusement. I deleted one post and then somebody else brought it up. Patreon's giving money to liberal causes, right? Your money. Taking a chunk of the money they get from you and putting it to liberal causes. And people are like, I'm not going to let you all talk about that and post that. I know I'm talking about it now. I'm just going to squelch it right here. If you post a comment on it, I'm going to delete it unread. Why? Honesty time. I don't want people to get ticked off and quit Patreon. If you want to, do it now. But you're not going to do that because this is how I buy my groceries. No secret. But here's the reality, people. Here's the reality. Read your Bible. You can see how this is going. If you don't want to read your Bible, read your whatever. Almost all the religions of the world are pointing towards what's coming. The world is going to descend into chaos. Evil is going to reign. Pick your points of light and focus on them. And come out of her, my people. And if you want to say, well, that's it, I'm not spending any more money on Patreon, they're giving it to whoever. And you think it irritates me? It irritates me, but I'm not going to allow myself to think about it. Patreon is actually giving money to their black, whatever you call me, producers of content or whatever. I'm not getting any money. They're giving them money. Okay, whatever. It's your company. Do what you want. Focus on the points of light. Do the best you can with what you got, where you're at. And understand this, it's going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse. And you are bringing it back. Read the writing on the wall, people. Read your Bible. Where do you think this is heading? See, I just got, my brain started going to dark thoughts, and I don't like doing that, especially at the beginning of the day. But you got to focus on the winning. We're going to go through a really dark period. And then the light, right? And if you think about it, looking back on all this, it's going to be kind of cool. You're going to be glad you went through it, I think. Because this doesn't really matter. It's what's coming that matters. So do the best you can with what you got where you're at. Get out of those cities. Come out of her, my people. Realize, here's another theme I hit all the time. Realize what is going on. Start hanging with the people you want to hang with. Form your tribe. We're an electronic tribe. I get that. But electronic tribe is not going to guard the intersection 2 miles away while you're growing beans. You need people. You need people. And you need to be away from the friction zones. And the quicker you do that, the better you'll do. And here's an example, and I'm going long, so then I'll get off. And I hit on this the other day. Man, I'm starting to sound like a dad, saying the same things all the time because it's important. Right now, in most suburbs of the country, you could sell your house. Put it up for sale, sell. Probably sell pretty quick. Good time of year to sell a house. You could sell it and make decent money on it. You think the suburbs right around Minneapolis can sell their houses when they're talking about defunding the police and they just burned it and looted it and the perception of what's going on there? How easy do you think it is to sell a house there? Well, picture this, gang. That's coming to a lot of places. And more people want to go to the country. Check this. Prices in the country are going up. Why? Because all these people from the populated centers are going, it sucks here, I need to get out to the country. Supply and demand. Supply and demand. Move early. Panic early, avoid the rush. Nothing I haven't been saying forever. Nothing I haven't been saying forever. If you are a cop, and I'm generally pro law enforcement. Oh, look, I didn't plan that. I even touched my shirt. I'm generally pro law enforcement. If you're a cop in a city, you need to get a new job most Ricky tick. Like, you should already have applications in. Dust off your resume. Get it out there. Oh, absolutely. If you're a cop in a city, I don't care if you're white, black, green, or blue. Bad place to be. Out here in the country, people respect the cops. Get away from the friction zones. It's coming. I may see you out here.